The World Cup is just 3 weeks away. It has cast a shadow, there's no doubt, over all the leagues in Europe, and a lot of players are worried about being injured, missing out. I have a feeling myself that it must be in the back of players' minds, but we'll see what John and Liam think. It's a pleasure to welcome Liam Brady and John Giles, two great players and two great judges. And we'll start with Liam. Liam, Arsenal, your club, 5-0 winners over Notts Forest, who the previous Saturday beat Liverpool 1-0. Now, there's silly talk in the papers about comparing this Arsenal team, in one case, to the Invincibles, who went through a whole season unbeaten. That's not going to happen. How good were they, or how bad were Forest?
A bit of both, Eamon. Arsenal were very good. They're usually starting the games very well. You know, they press high.
The goal. Yeah,
they're on the front foot, and they dominate possession, and they did that again yesterday. Scored early, really good goal, good combination between Martinelli, Saka. Martinelli gave it to Saka. Saka put it back in the middle, and young Martinelli got to the near post and. You know, it was a lovely little diving header. So that was a great start. Then they went a bit, quiet. The last 10 minutes of the first half, Forest had a couple of half chances. And you were kind of thinking, well, I hope it's not going to be like Southampton the week before, where they were dominant in the first half and then let Southampton come back into it in the second half. But it wasn't like that. They got an early goal through the substitute, Reece Nelson. And Forest just gave up after that, to be quite honest, Eamon. Yeah. It ended up 5. It could have been 7 or 8, to be quite honest. Forest were looking all over like they're going down.
Yeah, it's a surprising result, John, in one respect, in that Forest had beaten Liverpool 1-0 at home the previous Saturday. Normally, that would give you a lift, but it clearly gave Forest no lift. What do you make of Arsenal, John? They're top of the league by 2 points. And of course, I suppose Champions League football is in every club's mind. And in that regard, with 31 points, they're in good shape.
Very good shape, Eamon. He's been there a few years now, and he's getting it right. I think he's got a few things wrong in the early days. And he's getting it right, and that's what matters at the moment. He's got a young team. I think he wouldn't be too bothered about the Champions League, Eamon. I know that sounds odd. I think he'd rather get this team going and obviously win the league.
Yeah.
Because you're playing over 38 matches to do that. So I mean, he wouldn't not take winning the Champions League. But I think I mean
qualifying for the Champions League, being a top 4 team. Which is, makes a huge difference.
He's not on to qualify this year, Eamon.
Yeah.
But I think the league week in, week out would be his main concern. Eamon, his young team's coming on, and like the Champions League will take its place if he does what he wants to do in the Premiership.
Yeah. I'll ask both of you. John, I'll start with you. There's 2 players in the Arsenal team I really like, and I've liked them for a long time. Martinelli and Saka. Saka is they're the wide players. They're both capable of putting defenders under pressure by running at them with the ball, going past, and they look to do that all the time. That's an important quality if you have it as a player, and I like both of them.
Yeah, they're very good, Eamon, but you have to have the other players as well. Odegaard, the lads at the back. They're a good all-round team. The only person I've said a couple of times is Gabriel.
Yes.
I always think he's a bit of a liability. He's a bit too aggressive at times, gets into trouble, gives goals away. But anyway, but overall team, I mean, a lot of young players who have come on and done well. I think Arteta's done a huge job there, Eamon. He's been given the time, which is credit to Arsenal to allow him to do that. Some managers don't get it, but he's making the most of it, and he's doing a big job.
Yeah, and the other player, Liam, I mentioned too, there's Saka and Martinelli. Gabriel Jesus, which was a buy from Manchester City. Now, Arteta had been coaching there before with Pep Guardiola. Those 3 players, all young, all dangerous, they give an edge to Arsenal's attacking play.
Yeah, and I think Jesus has been really, really important, Eamon, because he's he's so enthusiastic. He gets chasing after defenders and things like that. And I think everybody's taking the lead off of him, you know.
Right.
And they're getting him behind. His work rate is phenomenal. You know, he's back helping defence. He's back helping the midfield. Yesterday, he could have had a couple of goals, but he seems to be out of luck in front of goal at the moment. But that doesn't stop him from performing. He really played well. And as I say, he's people are taking the lead off of him, you know, because he is so into the work rate for the team and things like that. And he's a leader. He's a leader on the pitch, and he's been a massive signing for Arteta. You know, he's really made a difference, and didn't have a goal scorer the last 2 or 3 years. Like Lacazette was probably, and he didn't. You know, he'd be lucky if he got double figures, Eamon. So this lad coming in, I think people believe that he's going to score goals, and they believe the team are going to score goals. So
now, Thomas Partey, Liam, is a midfield player, been at Arsenal a while. He came from Atletico Madrid, which is a good sort of place to come from with a coach like Simeone. He probably enjoys the training more at Arsenal than Simeone would have put him through. Has he made them stronger in midfield now? Because I thought when he came, he'd be a good addition to that squad. And he's in the team every week now. Is he making a difference?
Yes, he is, yeah. Him and Xhaka in midfield, they seem to have a good partnership. And they've got Odegaard kind of floating up front in front of them. And Partey has been making a huge contribution, more so this year. Sometimes it takes foreign lads a little bit of time to settle into the Premier League, because it's so different than, let's say, La Liga, where he was playing in Spain. It's played at a different pace, and I think he struggled to begin with in the first year, but he's settled in well. And I think, you know, he's got 3 players that we mentioned up front there. They're easy to find, Eamon. Martinelli, Saka, and Jesus. They're making runs. They're getting themselves free, and they're really, Arsenal playing lovely flowing football. You know, I think I said it to you a couple of weeks ago. It's a real pleasure to go and watch them now.
Yeah, and they're committing defenders, those kind of the 2 wide players.
Saliba has been a great signing as well. I know he's been our player, but they brought him back from loan. He'd been on loan for 3 seasons. But he's really made a difference to the defence. I agree with John. Gabriel has a big mistake in him. Yesterday, Forest were so poor. He wasn't really under that much pressure, so Arsenal got a clean sheet quite comfortably. But Saliba's made a big difference as well, and they've got backup, Eamon. Yeah. Now, I'm not sure we have the backup that you need to win a league, you know?
Yeah.
When you look at City's squad, you know, man, I know we're going to talk about them in a minute, but when you look at their squad, they've got quality and depth all over the place. So it's going to be a hard ask for Arsenal to stay on top. But like your question to John at the beginning, Arteta would take Champions League, you know, all day long. Arsenal have been out of it the last 5 or 6 seasons, so they want to get back into that.
Yeah. John, let's talk about Liverpool. We were talking to each other during the game. Obviously, Leeds are your first love in football. They were in the bottom 3 when they went to Anfield on Saturday night. Their coach was under massive pressure. You weren't too keen on him. They got 3 points at Anfield. I think it's the first time in the league that Virgil van Dijk has been on a losing side at Anfield. But it's certainly very rare that they lose there, and it's very rare that they lose and really, in a way, deserved it.
Yeah, well, I thought Leeds were the better team over the 90 minutes, Eamon.
Yes.
You know, there was such a change from the previous week and previous weeks as far as Leeds were concerned. You know, they were like a Bielsa team.
Yes.
You know, they deserved to win the match. They attacked when they had to. They scored at the last minute. But you'd have to say that, you know, when you're a Liverpool supporter, I'd be worried if I was a Liverpool supporter in the way in which they played.
Yes,
Simon.
And they were shocking, John.
Definitely.
Yeah. And they just for the winning goal, he scored it in the 89th minute. He's a kid who came on as a sub. His name is Somerville. He was so happy after the game. It was delightful to see. But when he picked the ball up in the box, he was about 2 or 3 yards inside the box. There were 3 or 4 Liverpool players around him. Virgil van Dijk was one of them. And yet he was able to get it, get turned, almost lose it, get back on it and poke it in the corner of the net. In that little instant, it revealed something about the Liverpool team at the moment. Did you think?
Oh, yeah, it did. Well, it's not Liverpool, the Liverpool that we know, have been used to over the last few years. For Leeds to go there and deserve to win it, and you say the goal at the end, I think what happened in that situation is that, Liverpool would be expected to win. They would be looking for the winning goal, and they think, well, maybe we don't have to defend here. They couldn't see Leeds scoring, which is very, very unprofessional situation to be in. I mean, you've got to charge the ball down no matter what who you're playing against or that. But Leeds, Liverpool haven't been the same. They're same for a while. I mean, I know they lost it, not for us. They've lost matches that over the years they would never lose. So it's hard to put your finger on it because they still have the players. They talk about the midfield is getting too old. Well, they are getting older, but they're not that old. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the players up front now. I mean, Núñez they bought with we're not so sure about him. Jota is injured. Diaz is injured. Firmino is not the same player as he was a few years ago. So I think once they get those players back, especially Diaz and Jota, I'd say you'll see a different Liverpool, Eamon. But there's definitely something missing there.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Liam, I thought that Liverpool were really bad because I didn't really think there was any intensity in their play. They were prepared to just knock it around. Trent Alexander didn't really look up for it. He hasn't done for a few games. But the more important thing listeners will want to know is, what did you make of them? You've seen them now. You've been in championship winning teams yourself.
Well, they got a big win against Man City a couple of weeks ago, and they looked like the Liverpool of old in that game. You know?
Yes, absolutely.
It looked like to me they got up for that game and that game alone. They certainly weren't at the races on Saturday night. They looked very casual, disinterested. As John said, if you're a Liverpool supporter, you'd be really worried. They've got a big game with Spurs before the World Cup comes along. And I'm not so sure that Klopp might last the season, Eamon. He does, scratching his head. What am I going to do? I know, as John said, they've got a right few injuries, and it's very difficult for a manager. But I was disappointed with their attitude. Virgil van Dijk was playing centre forward for the last 15 minutes, wasn't he?
He was. Did you see Klopp's post-match interview, Liam?
I didn't, no.
No. Did you see it, John?
Well, you tell us about it, Eamon. Some of his post-match interviews recently have looked like he's just shrugging his shoulders. He's resigned to having a bad season.
Yeah, no, that's very perceptive, because I watched the post-match interview and I wanted to watch Graham Souness to see what Graham would think of it. In his post-match interview, he was he didn't seem annoyed. He sort of expressed a view that he was almost puzzled. And then he started having a go in a sneaky way at the interviewer. What are you trying to say? Well, what the guy wasn't trying to say anything. He was trying to get an explanation from Klopp about a complacent and lackluster performance. But Klopp, in the interview, and I like Klopp, he seems a good guy. John, he didn't seem angry. And
he seemed confused, Eamon.
Yeah.
He wanted to have a bit of a go at the television guy, all right.
Yeah.
But he wasn't. But I know, I must, to be fair to him, Eamon, in most of the interviews after matches, when they win and play well, I don't understand what he's talking about anyway.
Yeah.
I really don't. He has his own language. I don't know how but I know he was getting a bit annoyed with the interviewer asking questions. Now, I must be honest, when you're a manager like that in that situation, it's very hard to keep your temper, Eamon, with some of these guys with the questions they ask.
Yes.
You know, so I wouldn't be too concerned about his attitude in the interviews, because anytime I hear him talking, I just can't work out what he's saying, good or bad, you know.
Let me ask you both about Trent Alexander-Arnold. We know what a brilliant player he can be going forward, what a wonderful footballer. That's a given. John, I'll ask you first. I'd drop him and I'd play Gomez at right back. I don't think he's trying. I think he's just ambling around the pitch. He's taking up the wrong positions all the time now. He doesn't chase back. He was one of the 4 players around the guy who got the winner on Saturday night. What would you do with him?
Well, it's very, very well. It's I find it fairly complicated. If you can live with me for a couple of minutes on the Alexander situation, when Liverpool are playing well, he can afford to go forward the way he goes forward, right? I don't believe in it, never have believed in it, but he's a brilliant distributor of the ball. He's a brilliant passer of the ball. He's made a fair amount of goals from the position that he plays in, but he has the license not to defend at all. It's to take a chance going forward. Now, when Liverpool were at their best, Eamon, he's an asset.
Yes.
When they're playing the way they're playing, he's not an asset. He's anything but an asset.
Yeah.
So Liverpool have to be on the front foot all the time for him to come into the ball, to get on the ball, make passes, make goals, do all the things that he does brilliantly. But when you're asked, when they're playing the way they're playing at the moment, they need defenders.
Yeah.
And he doesn't defend, Eamon. No. That's what I could understand a couple of weeks ago with Klopp. He said, when he was getting criticism, Alexander was getting criticism, he said, I can't understand this criticism that this lad is getting. You know, he couldn't, he's the manager, and he's been at cause of a lot. If Liverpool are not playing well, go forward. When they are going forward, he's a total asset. When he has to defend, he's anything but an asset. So he hasn't changed, Eamon.
No.
It's just at the moment that Liverpool are not going forward. They're not going forward the way they were going forward. You actually have to defend now at times.
Right.
And he's missing.
Now, Liam, what do you think of Trent Alexander-Arnold? I put it in this way. Gareth Southgate is not, I don't think he'll take him to the World Cup, and I certainly don't think he'll be the starting fullback. I think probably Kieran Trippier, who you know very well, he played for Spurs. He's playing for Newcastle now. He's a good pro. He's a good player. What do you make of his sort of unwillingness, I think, or disinterest in defending?
Yeah, it's shocking, really. I mean, he's having a shocking season.
I think so, yeah.
In Napoli a few weeks ago, when they got...
Yes.
I think it might have been the first Champions League game they played in the group. Napoli killed him, and he was awful.
Yeah.
And I don't think he played against Manchester City, Eamon, when they beat Manchester City. I think Gomez was right back.
Yeah. I think Milner might have played right back, and Gomez might have played whatever.
Certainly. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. It certainly wasn't Trent Alexander, and that was a big win for them, you know.
Yeah.
And he wasn't there, and I'd be like you. I'd have taken him out, but it looks to me as if Klopp is not bothered about teaching him how to defend properly or how to see the ball and see the man, and
and what positions to take up.
Not let people get around the back of him and things like that. He's been a liability this season. He really has, and I agree with you that Gareth Southgate would probably prefer. Well, he'd prefer to have Kyle Walker back in the team if he can get him fit for the World Cup.
Yeah,
but certainly Walker and Trippier would be in front of Alexander-Arnold for that right back spot. Right. I agree totally with John that when Liverpool are playing at their best, they're going to score 3 or 4 because of the forwards they had. Missing Mane as well. I think he's been a big loss this season.
Yeah, I agree with that too, very strongly.
John's right. When Liverpool were playing at their best and on the top, of course he can play up around in the last third of the field and put those beautiful crosses in and maybe come inside and have some shots and excellent at free kicks and things like that. But when they've had to defend, which they've had to do probably more this season than they've ever done under Klopp, he's struggling. He really is struggling. And Klopp is in denial if he says, you know, he doesn't understand why people are having a go at him.
Yeah.
It's quite obvious why they're having a go at him. He's been culpable for too many Liverpool goals.
Okay, now Manchester United, West Ham. I saw United twice in a few days. I saw them play Sheriff in the Europa League. Marcus Rashford got a fantastic headed goal in that game, and he got a fantastic headed goal yesterday, John, which was enough to beat West Ham. But I really like and admire Rashford. He's got a lot of talent, but he's had a terrible year. He seems to lose his confidence, his touch, everything. But those two headers may give him a boost. The player that really interests me is Casemiro. I thought he was really good on Thursday night. I thought he was really good yesterday. He really is a good player, isn't he? I mean, we should have known that. He's come from Real Madrid. He plays for Brazil. He's got a great pedigree, but he is a real top player, and he has made a difference.
Oh, yeah. He's a top, as you say, he's a top player. He's been playing for Real Madrid for a few seasons. He's got about 3 or 4 championship medals.
Five. He's got 5 Champions League medals. Yeah.
You know, you don't get 5 medals if you're not going to be any good. And he's only, I think, what is he, 31 or so? Around
he's 30.
30. Well, you know, he should be at his prime. Most players, and I'm sure he is. He's playing very, very well. He's been a big plus for Manchester United. It was a good game. I think they just about deserved to win. I think West Ham did really well to try and come back into the game. But it was another good win for Man U, and they're looking more like a team now.
Yes, there's a shape.
There's a shape to them, yeah. But that, to be fair to the manager, that takes a bit of time. You know, you don't do that overnight.
No, absolutely not.
He's had a few matches. He can see what he's got or hasn't got, and get on with it now.
Yeah, and
John, I just saw the highlights, but it looked as if Eriksen was good again. Was that right?
Very good.
Yeah,
he beautiful cross for
Rashford's goal. Yeah,
they didn't make much of it on the telly afterwards, but it was typical top class midfield play. He picked it out from nowhere. You know, spotted Rashford for the header and played it on beautifully. And Rashford was a really good header, but from it looked like there was no danger when he received the ball. Liam, you know.
Yeah.
And then a beautiful cross, beautifully picked it out.
He's playing much deeper now than he played with Spurs and with Brentford, isn't he? And it seems to be working. Is it, Eamon, do you think?
Yeah, well, my confession would be, I thought it was mad to play him deep. He is playing deep. And I thought he wouldn't, he'd never played that deep before. He is playing much deeper. He's actually playing as a kind of playmaker in midfield.
Well, he's the best passer at the club, isn't he?
Yeah, he's been a revelation to me, but then that's only me. But you guys know more. So, John, I think Liam's right there. He is playing and making a difference in every game, and the transition from defence to attack is smoother. He can pick out a pass, as you said he did yesterday for Rashford. I didn't think he'd have the legs or the mentality to be that kind of player.
Well, I think over his career, Eamon, what I've seen of him anyway, he's been more a deep player than he has a forward midfield player.
Yes.
You know, and maybe the team that he's in now, he's best at that particular role, and he can well do it, there's no doubt. I mean, he scored a few goals over these. He's definitely capable of picking out the pass like he did yesterday, and he's capable of getting from back to front in a very, very, very constructive way. I mean, I tell you, he's been an underrated player in many ways over the years. He's never been a spectacular player. He's been a real pro, doing what he's best for the team. He's never shown off. And that can help in publicity terms with some players. But he's always done the job that's been necessary and has been asked to do. And he's doing it extremely well. Well, Liam's getting back to the pass yesterday. I mean, it was a real top-class midfield player pass.
Yep.
To pick it out, put it over in the right way, and made it relatively easy for Radford, who came in, who was a brilliant header of the ball, to do that. But that was a terrific pass.
Right, now, Liam, Brighton 4, Chelsea 1. I think I know you saw Chelsea the week before playing Manchester United. Graham Potter had not lost with Chelsea in 9 games. He went back to Brighton, a team that he constructed and did a brilliant job at. They got hammered, Chelsea. The crowd were savage by all accounts. They went after him, forgetting all the good things he'd done. Big shock result. But Chelsea have been looking tardy, haven't they?
Well, as we discussed last week, and I was at Stamford Bridge to see them play United, I thought they were ordinary Chelsea, you know.
Yeah.
The defence looks a bit ropey. Certainly was ropey at the weekend. Brighton scored 4. I think there was 2 own goals in there as well.
Yes.
You know? So I couldn't believe, you know, that. Well, I can believe it because I live down here and Brighton supporters. They're.
I thought they were nice, genteel
people. It's a one team town, Eamon. You know, and they've got great pride in their team. Of course, you hint to go to Chelsea, they take offence at that and forget very quickly. You know what a great job he did for the club. You know, and how he took them so far forward, and they were playing really attractive football. Never a problem with relegation or anything like that. You know, so. Yeah. They've got a short memory, really have. I thought that was out of order. And I saw Potter's interview after the game and he said, well, you know, I don't owe them nothing here. You know, I did a really good job when I was here. Yeah. And if they want to be like that, let them be like that. But to go back to Chelsea on the field, that's his first real bad result, isn't it? You know, like you said, 9 unbeaten, doing well in the Champions League. Maybe just put it down to a blip, you know. Arsenal have got them next Saturday, so we'll see if Arsenal inform Chelsea. If they're not informed, Arsenal will beat them. We'll see next week. Yeah,
John, one player in particular to sort out, Raheem Sterling. The last few times I've seen him play for Chelsea, he doesn't look interested at all, John, and he was a big purchase in the summer. I don't know whether the owner bought him, but he's not doing his stuff at all.
I don't think he was doing his stuff at City for the last 2 years.
No, I agree with you, and that's why I think Guardiola was willing to sell him.
Oh, yeah, sure. I think at one stage now, I believe he went to Guardiola to say he wanted a certain amount of matches in the first team in his contract. I think that was trying to get away. And, you know, but then he was playing rubbish for City, in my opinion, and then he got to the European Championships for England, and he played really well because it suited him to do so. Yeah. So I wouldn't have much. I mean, he got Aubameyang as well, and I doubt very much if the managers got those players in.
No, just let me finish, lads, by asking about 2 results. Well, you both saw Diego Costa, as I did. Everyone did. Put the loaf on the Wolves defender. That was him off the pitch, and it wasn't a high-octane game. The other arrival in the top 4 is really interesting. Newcastle United. Eddie Howe's done a great job. He did a great job at Bournemouth for 10 years. Took them from administration and nearly been out of the league altogether. Took them up to the Premier League, kept them in the Premier League, and now at Newcastle, he's got some good players, he's bought some good players, and they're contenders for the top 4. He's an English coach. Is there a prejudice, Liam, against English coaches? Because no one ever came for him. None of the big clubs who needed a real coach never came for Eddie Howe, was it?
No, he did a brilliant job at Bournemouth, and then he went to Burnley, and that wasn't so good. I don't think that club suited him sometimes. Yeah. You're better off at certain clubs, and he went back to Bournemouth and then did another real good job. They got relegated a couple of seasons ago. That didn't help his CV. And I think when Newcastle were looking for a manager, they took a bit of a punt on him, you know, and he's done an absolutely brilliant job for them. Hasn't spent that much money, bought very wisely. Scoring a lot of goals now. I think they scored 4 last week. It's the 4 again this week. Yeah. In the top 4, as you say. And with the Saudi backers, you think, you know, if they were in the Champions League game and hang on to that top 4 position, and with Liverpool playing the way they are, there could be an opening there, you know. So
they might open the checkbook that they open for the golfers.
Oh, they'll be desperate to open the checkbook. You know, they'll be. Eddie Howe will have to stop them spending, you know. He'll have to say, take it easy, lads, you know. But no, a really good job he's doing at Newcastle. And that Callum Wilson, another couple of goals.
Yeah, there's a fella called Almiron who's a really outstanding player.
Yeah, he scored the last six on the trot, hasn't he? The last six league games on the trot.
He's from Paraguay, but he's a great goal scorer, a great finisher, but he's a very good footballer as well.
Yeah, no, they have an exciting team, and the Newcastle fans, they're very hard to please, as we know, down through the years. They've given some managers a hard time up there, but I think they're really behind this manager. And with that Saudi money, I say, waiting to be spent, I think Newcastle are going to be operating at the top of the league rather than down at, the bottom or worrying about relegation. It's a good story.
It is a good story. John, just a final word about Spurs. 2-0 down away to Bournemouth. Came back and pulled it out of the fire in the dying minutes of the game. I think in the 90th minute they got their result. They got their 3-2, which is the kind of thing you want. And who did they play next? Only, I think, Liverpool next week. So that should be an interesting match to watch. But Conte hasn't got much to work on there, has he, John?
No, he's doing miracles again, Eamon. They lost a couple of matches there recently, but they're still third in the table. They're only a few points behind.
Yeah.
And if you look at the amount of money spent, he bought a few players all right, but not compared to some of the big spending teams.
No.
I think he's doing a really top-class job again. It just showed that there's a fighting spirit. I saw at half-time around just after they were 2-0 down. I thought, God, that's a bad result for them. And they came back, as you said, and win it 3-2. Well, wherever he's gone, he's done a good job, Eamon. Liam would know him better than we would, but he probably played against him. But I think he's getting the best out of the players he has available at Spurs. And that's all any manager can do, Eamon.
Yeah, it's doing it.
John, I knew him when he had no hair. He's got the best sewing job that I've ever seen.
It's a good,
brilliant.
The old is it a syrup?
No, it's a sewing, Eamon. Sewing job.
How do you
get? Yeah, I would have had it myself had it been around in my day.
It never comes off. Although I notice when
it's not. It's a sewing job, Eamon. It's a sewing. It's one of these new things. Yeah.
So it doesn't come off if someone pulls it.
But it's the best one I've seen. Anyway, he's doing a great job. I thought when I 2-0, I thought they're suffering. They had a hard game in the Champions League during the week.
Yeah, they did.
And Harry Kane, they thought they had a winner right in the last minute, and for some reason disallowed it. I couldn't understand.
I couldn't understand it.
Disallowed. But they had a hard game, and then when they were 2 down, I thought, well, that's going to be good for Arsenal. But typical Conte, he gets his team fighting, and they fought back, and they won. They won in the last minute. Bentancur.
If you want to get ahead, get a wig. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks to Lee, Brady and John. We're grateful to both of them, and we're lucky to have them, and we know that.